Cool. All right, we're here with David Thorne, who's the CEO of Construction Management Pros. How are you?
Doing well. Glad to be here.
I love the shirt.
Yeah, thank you.
You bet.
Just came back from Orlando, so I was feeling very vacation-y.
Yeah,
so.
It looks good. Lot to unravel here because you've got a long history in building things.
Yeah.
If somebody gave you a couple of bags of concrete and some 2x4s and some tools, you could probably make something, right?
Yes. Done that many times.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I don't do it as home as often as I used to, but my wife still has the endless projects list. So
yeah, it's like the mechanic whose car's broken down.
Yeah, 100%.
Last thing they want to do is work on their own.
Yeah, you got it.
Yes, I love it. Talk a little bit about what you guys do at Construction Management Pros.
Yeah, we are Utah's only concierge custom builder. We actually are pioneering this term of concierge building. We take a unique approach to our building efforts. A lot of great contractors here in Utah, and they do a great job of building beautiful homes, beautiful office spaces. But we have a PR problem with construction. I can't tell you how many times I've heard or I've spoken to someone that has had a contractor nightmare story.
Yep.
Is all too common. And it's sort of the fuel for my fire, right? It's the thing that drives me. And I've realized we don't need to operate the same way. Just because we've always done it that way doesn't mean we need to continue doing it that way. And so a few years ago, we decided, almost 3 years ago, I decided to pioneer this new term, this new way of construction. And you still put the sticks together the same way. You still put the house together much the same way. Mm-hmm. But we focus on the client experience and how they are interacting with us as the builder, and with their subcontractors through the whole process. So we take a white glove customer experience approach and handhold clients. We become really the guide, the person sitting in the passenger seat that's telling the client where to turn, as opposed to the builder driving the car and then just oh, I got this, just leave it up to me, craftsmanship and quality. Right.
Right.
And then the customer ends up as I loved my builder. He's a great guy and I have a beautiful home, but I've got this bad taste in my mouth, and it was $50,000 more expensive than he told me, and it took 6 months longer.
Yeah. It is a unique industry where, if you buy a steak dinner, it's going to be whatever price is on the menu.
Right.
But if you're building something, it's a bit of a roller coaster sometimes, and you might end up in the wrong spot.
100%. And, I always laugh because it is tradition. It is normal in our industry for a customer to say, well, how much am I paying you? What's your markup?
Yeah.
How much are you making on this? And then let's negotiate that.
Yeah.
You don't walk into, your grocery store and say, excuse me, Smiths, what's your markup on this, Raisin brand box?
Yeah.
It just doesn't happen in most industries, but in construction, that's just how it happens.
The other bad thing with y'all's industry is count on it taking longer and costing more.
Exactly.
And if I was in y'all's industry, I'd be like, we got to get rid of that.
Yeah.
Got to get rid of that somehow.
I love that. And that's actually part of our secret sauce, if you will. We've actually eliminated, or trying to eliminate, free estimates, because ultimately you get what you pay for. And what happens is a customer says, well, can you give me a bid on this? And the average estimate or bid takes 25 to 30 hours to do. And so a builder's going to say, well, I'm going to put as little effort and time as I can into that. Hopefully I come in low, win it, and then I sign a cost plus contract, and you've got to pay for it anyways.
Yeah. Yeah. I read a book on Bechtel, the biggest contractor in the world, I think. I think they were the ones that invented that cost plus way of doing it.
It's easier to manage from a construction perspective because I just have to turn over the receipts.
Yeah.
And then I charge 15, 20, 25% on top of that. So it's way easier to manage for sure.
Yeah.
And I don't have to be accurate in my bid.
Yeah.
And we've decided, that's not a good experience for customers. So we've gone back to the drawing board and we say, okay, when a customer contacts us and says, I want to know how much this costs, we engage a customer for a really low investment on their project relative to their project and say, hey, are you willing to spend a few $1,000s to actually know what it costs?
Yeah.
And then we don't have to guess anymore. There's no guesstimates. And that way you can know. And we do fixed price contracts. So we're there invested, partnering with that homeowner or that business owner to say, we can promise you this price because we're just as invested that it comes in on budget as you are.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. I always have this fantasy of, let's say I win the lottery.
Yes.
Come home and the check's there. And let's say it's you now, because like we're forming a friendship. I would send you the website for Teddy Roosevelt's like Oyster Bay home
yes.
on Long Island. And they have the blueprints of what it looked like. And I'd say, this is what the house I want. You can tear down my current house because the lot works. And then I would say how much.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah.
by the way, I'm going to go fishing for 6 months.
Yeah.
And we're not going to communicate anymore. Yeah. That would not happen, but it sounds like it's getting into the realm of possibilities with y'all, right?
You know, it's interesting because you want to be able to say how much. Oh, and right now the current trend is how much. And by the way, I won't hold you to it,
mm-hmm.
right? But I need to know a number so that I know if I can afford it or not, right? And then I'm basically, finger in the air guessing what your home is going to cost, and hopefully it's lower than the other contractors that you asked.
Yeah.
Now it's about like, how do we get it to a point where we can literally take it off of your hands and you can trust that we are going to manage it properly with your best interest at heart. And a lot of that comes from doing the work up front. I know that's sort of counter to tradition in construction, is do a lot of work up front. But that's where the secret is sort of this design build type of platform or way of constructing things, is that we're going to spend a lot of time in the pre-construction phase, the design phase, answer as many questions as we possibly can, so that when we get to the construction portion, then there's not a lot of guessing. And when my dad is a general contractor. So growing up, like my dad said, oh, Mondays are days for putting out fires, and I just, as I got, I grew up thinking, oh, well, Mondays are for days for putting out fires. And then I actually started thinking about this for a second, and I thought, well, why?
Yeah.
Why do we have to put out fires on Mondays? Well, I've found that most of the time it's because there wasn't enough planning that had gone into a project. So of course there's fires on Mondays, whether it's a subcontractor didn't show up or your employees or whatever it is, there wasn't an adequate enough planning that was put into place. So you have a lot of fires.
Yeah.
And so what happens is when you're putting out a ton of fires every single week, every single day, then your quality suffers. We found that by answering as many questions up front, Mondays are great.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with I love Mondays. And you don't have fires to put out. And when there is an actual emergency or urgency to something, it's a real fire.
Yeah.
Then you can put all of your effort into solving the problem that's going to be best for the client and not necessarily for your pocketbook.
Yeah. I like it. I think you guys are onto something here. Because if somebody hires you and your team, or let's just say it's you, right? Because you've proven that you can swing a hammer and build and frame. You're not going to build the house, right? Or if you do, it would take 5-6 years.
Right.
You got these subcontractors.
Yeah.
And I've done a few construction projects where you already gave this example. I love the builder, great guy, but what the hell is happening downstream?
Mm-hmm.
And it's easy to blame it. Oh, the electrician was 3 weeks behind, and so I can't do my job.
Yep.
And they're just like all over the place. And then it's 3 months later, and there's that old cliche.
You nailed it. It's always the blame game when you talk to the drywall guy. Oh, well, the framer didn't frame the walls straight, right?
Yep.
Or the plumber is blaming the electrician. The wire's in the way, and we're always just passing the buck. And what we found and we've got great builders here in our Utah Valley Home Builders Association that are doing fantastic jobs of putting a lot of effort into the planning phase, the design phase, which goes a long way for subcontractors in keeping everyone in sync. We use a platform, a construction management software called Builder Trend. This has gone a long way in helping everyone stay on the same page. And we get our subcontractors to use Builder Trend so that they're aware of any schedule changes or modifications, change orders, RFIs, requests for information, different things that happen in a building project, whether it's an office building or a custom home. There's a lot of moving pieces. And oftentimes most people don't recognize how much effort and work there is just to manage the project. Yeah. Not even constructing it, but just like managing it. Constructing it is a whole different ballgame. But to make sure that all of those cogs, some of them big, some of them small when it comes to a custom home, are fitting perfectly together and then working well together. It requires a lot of technology. It requires a lot of management and a lot of experience to anticipate issues so that when you do, when the customer when they don't notice that there's a problem, it doesn't mean that there wasn't. It was solved and fixed and averted or resolved before the customer even knew about it.
Yeah. Because you're talking something that's even a little bit more complicated, because I live in a house that was built in 1955 for, baby boomers, right? And very simple, 4 walls, roof, basic everything. Those probably took 2 or 3 weeks to build at most. Yep. But custom homes, you're compounding all of these because your client probably has the means for a custom home because they're a bit exacting, I might venture to guess. Yeah. So you're going to need everything that you just talked about. They're not cookie cutter. They're not rinse and repeat. Each one's different.
Yeah. And also you're not doing it like some of these larger builders, like a DR Horton. They're great for what they are, but you also have to recognize that what you're getting from a DR Horton is going to be very cookie cutter. They're a national brand. Yeah. They build all over the country. So they get preferential treatment and pricing on buying bulk. Yeah. I mean, just like going to Costco, they sell you on buying bulk. Yeah. Sometimes it feels like I'm not sure that I'm actually saving any money by going to Costco, but the idea is like when you buy in bulk, you save money, right? And so their cost to build a house, a single family home, is significantly cheaper than you would be able to do a one-off, right? And they've got contractors that are doing subcontractor and doing the exact same thing every single time. So they kind of get into this rhythm. And so that's why you see, like, especially here in Utah, you get these communities that just pop up overnight. Yep. And I just, like I said, I got back from Orlando. I have not been to another state in this country that is building as much as Utah. Florida is probably second to what I've witnessed, driving all over the state of Florida this last week. But it's amazing. I came home and there's back to Saratoga Springs, and there is a development that they're building, a multifamily development, and they just had concrete in the ground. Next thing you know, I come home and there's a whole nother concrete and the structure is built, and it happens really fast. But with custom, you have to be exacting. You have to be specific. Customers want their floors level. They want the best materials used, even in the structure, the things that you don't see, not the beautiful tile on the wall, on the floors or the walls, or the really nice hardwood, or the carpet. You were telling me earlier, you're like, I don't know the difference between any of the carpets. But I think, customers pay attention to that because it's what they can see. Yeah. But the things that they most often complain about are the things that my floor squeaks. Yeah. I have bounce. I hear my kids, right? Yep. These are all things that they don't notice in the moment, but have to be taken into account when you're building a custom home, because ultimately that's your legacy as a builder, is the floor squeaking and the bounciness and the loud feet. Someone's walking above you and you can hear every footstep.
Yeah.
Those are the things that we want to make sure that are clearly communicated, so that all the things you don't ever see in a home, when it's finished, are continue that way, right? That they stay unnoticed.
Yeah, there's a big difference in custom homes versus cookie cutters, and you can always tell the difference when you're in. You are also involved in a project group called Beyond Building.
Yeah.
And you mentioned earlier, like a little bit of a PR problem. Is the purpose behind this group kind of to help solve that a little bit?
Absolutely. I felt like, what more can I do? Like our business, Construction Management Pros, is trying to, forge this path forward to help the whole industry elevate itself. The common thing that we all hear in every podcast known to mankind is like, the rising tide raises all ships. Mm-hmm. I believe that's true. And so, but I'm only one builder.
Yeah.
And I know that there are a handful of other builders, especially here in Utah County. We do a great job here in Utah County, but we still have problems. We still have these customer experience issues. I can only do so much as a single business. And my thought was, as a relationship first builder, our relationships aren't just with our owners. They're with our community. It's with the owners of businesses that we may not even be building with. It's with other builders and subcontractors and building partners, other vendor relationships. It is beyond just the build.
Yeah.
And it goes deep into the lives of each family member and employee of every single business that interacts with the building industry. And so I decided to put together a forum for builders and those who care about the building industry in Utah, and ultimately just in Utah in general, to come together and let's talk about like the low-lying fruit here. Like, how do we build better in Utah, in terms of standard practices and things like that, to elevate. But like I mentioned, it's more than that. It's like, how do you build a better company? How do you have a good culture in your building business? How do you ensure that your employees are heard and taken care of and loved? Because at the heart of every business is people.
Yep.
And people are the most important thing that we can do. And the only way we're going to elevate in Utah, in building a better Utah, is directly through relationships and with people.
I love it because whether you like all the growth or you don't, if it's done right, it'll be more palatable for everyone. Long after all of us are done talking into these microphones, when we're just pushing daisies, it'll have a lasting legacy and impact. And we've all been to communities where it's like, man, whoever was doing this in 1920 were squared away.
Yeah.
And then you see like, whoever was doing this in 1970 sucks.
What were they thinking, right? Well, they weren't thinking about people, or at least we assume that they weren't, right? And the needs of a society change over time, right?
Yeah.
And it's about thinking far enough ahead so that it can, because we are building our legacy. We don't have a choice. You don't get to opt out.
Yeah.
You are building your legacy, and how you contribute to our community it will be your lasting legacy, whether you think you are or you're not. And so when we blaze this path forward, especially with the Beyond Building project, it's important to remember we need to look forward, but we also need to look here and now.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why we've partnered with Sapria. And I'm not sure if listeners know much about Sapria, but they benefit, and they're a nonprofit originally started by the Unique Foundation, or originally was the Unique Foundation, started by Unique to bless the lives and help provide opportunities for healing for women that had been physically or sexually abused in their childhood.
Mm-hmm.
And so now these are adult women that they're helping to overcome some traumatic experience in their youth. And so we partnered with Sapria because I'm passionate about this specific topic. It directly affects my family. And I thought, what better way to start this whole Beyond Building project than to, walk the walk.
Yeah.
And it is a free event, but we request donations to Supriya. Whatever you can afford as a business, as a group, as a family, as an individual, to benefit these women that have been impacted by choices not of their own making. And
right.
so that's just a little bit about what we're trying to do. And as we blaze forward, it's just about impacting our communities in a better way, a greater way than just building beautiful buildings and beautiful homes, because at the end of the day, we could have beautiful buildings and beautiful homes, but if we don't fix the people inside of them, it's all for nothing.
Yeah. Well, that's two good groups there, Beyond Building and then Supriya. We've had them on the show many, many times and on stage. Great group. Welcome to community building, right? You're going to have to wear a different hat with this one as you build this. So when is the next Beyond Building?
It is June 26th. It's from 9 to 11:30. We do some brief like networking in the beginning, just getting to know each other, having some donuts or something donated by Spudley or Lehigh Bakery or wherever I can get them.
Very cool.
And then we have a group of speakers. This next month, Carrie Hill. There's a few others.
Cool.
Their names are blanking me at the moment, but we've got a few others here that'll be speaking to us. Scott Steele and I can't remember the third.
Check the website.
Check the website.
There you go.
Kent White.
There you go. Got it. Came to you. If somebody would like to build a custom home, best way to reach out and get in contact with you, and then also if they want to get involved in the Beyond Building project.
Yeah. Best way for a custom home. We also do custom remodels, tenant improvements, is our website, thecmpros.com.
Okay.
And you can contact us through there.
Great.
And then the Beyond Building project, I'll have to check what the website is on that. But we can send it out to you. It's thecmpros.com/beyond-building-project.
Perfect. Very cool. Congrats to you and your team for kind of peeking around the corner and validating what's going to happen into the future and throwing your hat in the ring to kind of build a group in the community that's kind of focused on what you exactly just described, which I think is unique.
Yeah.
Very cool. All right. Thank you, David.
Yep. Thank you.